Hi, my name is Frank Ortiz, and this is my infomercial for HSC 425, Spring 2016 at Cal State Long Beach. Before I jump into my presentation, I'll give you a quick breakdown of what I'm going to be discussing today. What is sex tourism and trafficking? How common is this practice? Where does it occur? And some of the efforts that are being made to stop this practice. However, I do have a quick notice of advice. Some of the information that I found in statistics are pretty strong in content, so if at any point you feel uncomfortable, please feel free to stop the video. Typical stories like that of Anna, which was an aspiring model that was recruited for a newspaper ad in a different country with the promise of being a model one day, and eventually she would realize that she was being forced into prostitution in a different country, and if she resisted she would get beaten and threatened that she would be killed, and those that do resist. And this is Anna when she gets, after she's forced into prostitution, and this is just the introduction to sex trafficking and sex tourism. So what is sex tourism and trafficking? By definition, sex tourism is travel planned specifically for the purpose of sex. In other words, planning to travel to another country to pay for sex. What is sex trafficking? It's a commercial sex act that is induced by force, fraud, or coercion. In other words, prostitution, pornography, or sexual performance where victims are forced into the trade, whether either taken away from their native homes and trafficked into another country or in their own country as well. So how common is this practice? Well, as you can see here, the shades of green indicate that either illegally or legally, sex trafficking as well as prostitution is being recorded or reported to exist. So there's maybe in the entire world map only one section that doesn't have any data and doesn't necessarily indicate that there isn't any trafficking or prostitution occurring at this time. So here are some shocking sex trafficking facts that I found through UNICEF. 1.2 million children are trafficked every year. The average victim is forced to have sex up to 40 times a day. Approximately 30 million children have lost their childhood through sexual exploitation. 1 to 2% of victims are rescued, and only about 1 in 100,000 that are involved are convicted. And why is it so popular and still here today? It's because the illicit value of sex trafficking is estimated to be in the excess of $32 billion. So that explains why it's still common and practiced in almost every country. Here are some of the other stats. Again, the major one being that the money that's generated every year is in the billions of dollars. Unfortunately, 50% of the traffic victims are less than 16 years old, which means they're underage, and 80% of these victims are, for the most part, women. So some of the efforts that are being done is obviously through the government. The FBI, the U.S. Department of State, are taking a strong approach and making sure that we could eradicate prostitution and sex trafficking here by setting up different hotlines, obviously setting up sting points. You see it on TV all the time, and there's different countries that have the same efforts, but again, it's really complicated when there's a large amount of money that's being involved that's motivating this acts to continue to occur. Again, you have some of the largest world organizations in the world that are also committed to the eradication of this practice. You have UNICEF that sets up campaigns and hotlines for those victims. You have the United Nations, where you have world leaders that are gathering and adding some sort of minutes into their General Assembly and discussing how they can eradicate this plague, and not to be enticed with the money, but more important to be focused on protecting their citizens, and more than anything their children, which is their future of their countries or their nations. With that, I thank you for your time and for watching. I wish you a happy summer and the best in your future endeavors.